Hello everybody, it's Gail here from Ornamentology. I was very kindly lent by a very dear friend who does a lot of craft. One of these gadgets that you can cut these little slots in and run little wire gizmos or those little plastic folder holder together things that people use for their presentations. My friend has had this a long time and she said, I don't use it. Go away and try it and see what you think. My initial idea was to chomp through the covers of these books and just wire bind them together. But that, it transpires, is not a goer. It won't go through this thick book card. So I had to have a bit of a rethink. But I wanted to do something that looked kind of a bit grungy and kind of took in consideration the way this book looks. I mean, it's obviously been sprayed painted, the cover of this book. It's from that pile of books from the couple on their wedding day, heaps of books that they had that I got from Facebook Marketplace. But I quite liked it. I like the way it looks kind of bashed and like it's been kicking around for a long time, and I liked that. And then I decided that I quite like the idea that it looked a bit utilitarian. So I got my die set out and I cut out this number, and then I pushed out the numbers. It could have just looked embossed, but I quite like the idea of the numbers being pushed out, and then I grunged it up a little bit. So this journal is in fact called number 3074 because I just quite like it. It looks a bit Cold War, I think. Well, what do I know? Anyway, I've used this gold coloured cord to tie it together because I quite like the idea of a bit of luxury on something that's obviously looks like it's been in the wars. So I've put it together in a slightly different way. It's just an interesting idea. I may visit this again, I may not, I don't know, but you know, in the name of one-off, here we go. So this is what it starts like. I've just kind of here found some, in my vast now ever building array of digital downloads, I found these library cards. So I've tucked those in the front. You can just write on the back and the front of those. And some of this stripy nutty paper that I quite liked. And my printer had a bit of a brain moment where it didn't work very well. And so I'd overprinted. I thought I'd got a clean sheet of paper, to be fair. So maybe it was pilot error. And this was on the other side, but I quite like that. It's kind of interesting. It shouldn't be there, but then, you know, lots of things are where they shouldn't be. Now, so I hinged that on there with some banana board, banana box paper, and then again found, we'll put that to one side because we've seen that lots of times, found these further digital downloads. I love these old typewriters, they're rather magnificent, and I've got blops of tea staining here. This is just a little envelope to put things in. I recently, secondhand of course, because I am that girl, got one of those heat gun thingies and some embossing powder, so I thought I'd give it a bit of a crazy go with that. And I quite like the fact that it's silver and the other bit's gold. So then we opened the actual book. I took another one of those, these cards were two printed next to each other, so I folded this one in half and made it into a mini notebook. The colours are kind of this grubby, grungy looking hand-dyed papers, dyed by my lovely self, as is the back of the card that this download came in. And when I first started this journal and journaling adventure, I looked at loads of people's efforts on YouTube, and some of them stuck in my head and some of them didn't. But I made a whole wad of pockets from this lady, following this lady, and she just makes them out of 12 by 12 sheets of paper. And so I made some, and the way she put hers together, obviously her cutting and scoring skills are considerably more accurate than mine. And when I'd done it, it was all a mismatch and it wouldn't line up very well, and it all looked a bit on the wonk. So I actually cut the pocket bits out and kept them, and I think that actually works a treat there. It kind of lends itself to the colourway. So moving on, this was just a piece of that green suspended file folder. This is a bit of a download, but I quite like digital download, but I quite like it. It's just a bit grungy and tatty, and the printer had a bit of a moment when it wasn't playing nicely, and I like this. And you know, you might think it's a bit strange, but I actually like this printer mess ups because it's just an interesting addition to this. You know, if you looked at that, by the time you'd finished, you know, our eyes want to make want to give things for our brains to make patterns out of, and you'd have that turned into something probably quite sinister by the end. And I've just stamped on top of here. I did think about getting the silver stuff out again, but I thought, no, let's not over egg the pudding. And then I use this set of stamps that I've got, and it says for skill and amusement only, so I just quite liked it really. And there's this, you're supposed to cut this out. I think you'd have to have considerable more patience than I have, but you could colour it in, I suppose, if you felt inclined. I've got this old index sheet that took my fancy. There's just a lot of writing paper in here. This is packaging paper, and I've left this in. I quite like the authenticity of actually having what it was before in there. I took a book to bits, Arthur Mees Kent, and I just left the spine in there. It's just an interesting piece of ephemera, really. This has got a bit missing out of it. I quite like it. It looks like it should be there. And then I put 2 pieces of this book that's about how to do your tax returns, because I just really liked it. I like the way that it's got these really kooky numbers, the days of the week, and these little tabs that stick out. I found this Clover Farm store. It's obviously a download from someone. I guess it's these people's interiorsblogspots.com. But do you know what? It's kind of interesting. It's a bit nuts, and it obviously originated in the 1960s, but it's just a crazy thing. I also had this rather sad looking envelope that I'd marigold dyed, but it was all very kind of shabby looking, so I cut the actual bit that turns over, the flap of the envelope off, and stuck it down because I thought I wanted to do that. And to break up the fact that we're doing our daily take-ins, I put it in between here. I thought, you know, you could put whatever you like in there, really, to be honest. And these are just interesting bits of kind of social history, I think. And then a bit more from the gardening book, Grow Your Own Fruit. I thought it might be quite interesting. You know, if this is a book that's going to keep you through the survival, you might want to know a bit about growing your own fruit. How to graft fruit trees. You never know when you're going to need to know how to cordon a fruit tree. I put these little cards in, because they're sort of in the middle of the book and they're kind of different. I did a word search and I even combed that in. So Irish connections, holiday destinations, and on this side, Asian countries and explorers. I don't know. You could always rip it out, give it to your friend if you don't want it yourself. This is just a piece of really coarse and beautiful paper. This is shiny. This is matte. And I quite like that. I used, because in the waste not want not department, I used the flap bit of the envelope here and just turned it over so that the other sort of frayed bit is here, because I just liked it. And then I put a handle with care. Another one of those digital downloads on the back of a piece of paper. A little tiny edge from something. You know, these little note sheets are quite useful. And, you know, paper's a precious commodity, isn't it, really? These are very grungy and dark. I quite like that. And then you can write on here, and then you can read the poem The Tiger by William Blake on this side. And then I put 2 more of those in there. They're just interesting because there's not one of them. This is the other piece that went with the packaging paper. And then on the back, I found Madame Blummer's egg saver. I have no idea what that's about, but it looks interesting. And there's more. I made this into a little hook. It's just a strip of paper that you can write on, to be honest. And then there's more of this kind of paper from earlier, and it's just a bit of stripy paper. It's a bit nutty, but I quite like it. And then that just tucks in there so that when you put it in, you can equally dig it out. And then we're on the back. There's a little pocket in the back, and I've put 2 more little cards. These are quite interesting. I quite like them. They sort of work, and it's just a little pocket, and so that it kind of keeps your stuff. And I've put department numbers and just little grungy tags there. And because I wanted to tie this round, I've put these here just to protect things. So it kind of, the tie comes up between those 2. And it fastens back together. That's it. It's a kind of interesting idea. I'm a bit disappointed that I can't actually use the chompy thing to go through the actual book covers, but I'll think of something. I've got this crocodile thing, so what I might do is I might get some hole binding, something, ring binding things, and actually do it a different way. There's always another way, but this was just a little something that I made yesterday. The weather was so boiling here that I just couldn't even think, really, to be honest. It was just hide somewhere cool and wait for it to kind of cool down a bit. So this journal is called number 3074, just because that's what's on the front of it, really. The size is 8 inches this way and 6 inches this way. It is deliberately, the back is shorter than the front. I just wanted it to do that. I like the idea of seeing the pages, to be quite honest with you. So back to the sizes in centimetres. That's 20 centimetres tall by 14 centimetres wide. It's available in the usual way. It was the handy crossword companion before. You can see that kind of embossed in there, but I just like the grunginess of it. There's something quite lovely and grungy about it, and you know, these extra bits of pocketry and whatnot you can stuff and fill with your own delightful possessions. I mean, you could stick photographs in it. It just because it's a sheet of bareness, it means you can actually do what you want with it. It could be a little sketchbook. You could just write, I don't know, notes and whatever takes your fancy. However the fancy takes you, that's what I think. You know, I make them. What you choose to put in them is entirely up to you. Isn't that the idea? You know, it could be your secret world in here. Who's going to think to look in a crossword companion to find out the secrets of your world? I don't know. Depends who you live with, I suppose, or who comes past your bookshelf. So there we are. It's ready to go. It can be popped in the post to you in a jiffy, and in a jiffy bag, probably. I'm going to decorate the bags and things that I send things in to you, because I think it's just a bit more interesting. And I shall put some enclosure-y bits of sticky stuff that you can stick on the front, I beg your pardon, to cover the postage and address labels, so that you can actually use it as a book cover. So, you know, nothing is wasted or left to chance, I think. So here it is. I think it's going to be £20, because that seems like a reasonable amount for my efforts, to be fair. I hope that suits you. And, you know, if you've got a book that's falling to bits and you don't want it to be repaired using classical book binding methods, then get in touch and we can do something kooky with it. You know, mending spines and then using the old spine as a bookmark, maybe. I don't know. There's 101 ways we can work that out as we go along. But here it is. This journal number 3074 is what it's called. Thank you very much for your time. Bye now.